Hello students. Yesterday we have seen the important topics regarding to the chapter nuclei, and there we have discussed the topic for the hypothesis that was behind the composition of nuclei, and with the help of that hypothesis we have seen that what is the discrepancies of electron proton hypothesis and what is the reason behind the success of neutron proton hypothesis. So finally the hypothesis we have accepted, that is neutron proton hypothesis, and the region that you know already. Actually all the regions due to that electron proton hypothesis failed, that was totally satisfied as with the help of neutron proton hypothesis. So that's why we have accepted that model for the composition of nucleus, and now time we know already that nucleus is composed of two types of particles, that is one is neutron, and second is proton. The mass of neutron and proton are comparable to each other. They have nearly some difference only there, and in rough way if you see that the mass is nearly equal, and the neutrons are chargeless particles, they are neutral particles, protons are positively charged particles. So as a whole we have a positive nucleus, and outside the nucleus we have revolving electrons. So as a whole if you see the atom, then atom will be electrically neutral. So this concept we have discussed already, and also we have discussed the nuclear property like density, size, volume. We have discussed all these things. So today let's discuss what is binding energy, what is binding energy per nucleon, and what is its curve, and how can we define stability with the help of that curve. These are very important topics regarding to your examination, so you have to study that and you have to make revisions on that. So the first factor, what is binding energy? So as I told you yesterday the concept of binding energy also, but still today let's see it again. As we know that in nucleus we have two types of particles, neutron and proton, and collectively a neutron and proton, that is known as nucleon. So nucleons are bonded by the strong nuclear force, and they are bound to move only within the nuclear dimension. So the region means if they are bounded by a strong force, and now suppose that we just want to remove one nucleon from the nucleus, then definitely we have to overcome that force. And how can we overcome that force? We will add some energy from the outside to that nucleus. So with the addition of energy from the outside of that nucleus, we can remove one nucleon from the nucleus. So the minimum energy that is required to remove one nucleon from the nucleus, that is known as its binding energy. In other term, if you want to know the energy required to bind one nucleon to each other, that is known as its binding energy. So both factors are same. Obviously if nucleons are bind together within the nuclear dimension, then definitely some of the energy will be lost in the while they were binding. So that energy is known as binding energy, and after the binding of that, obviously if you want to break them again, if you want to split them again, then definitely you have to add that amount of energy again to it. So the binding energy can be defined in both of the way. Either you can define it in the terms of removal of nucleons, or to the binding of the nucleons. In both the ways you can define it. Next factor is that we have seen that the mass of nucleus, that is equal to the mass of nucleons contained in the nucleus. But it has been seen that whenever we see the mass of the nucleus, that is always less than the mass of the nucleons. If you just sum or add the mass of the nucleons, then the mass of nucleus is always seen less than that. Reason behind is what? Some of the mass is defected here actually, and the mass that is disappeared, that is known as mass defect. So reason is that as there are charged particles, there are protons, there are neutrons, and obviously they are bind together. So if you have to bind two particles together, then definitely you have to do some work on that factor. So to do the work, obviously we need some energy, and that energy, how can you obtain that? So that energy is provided by the nuclear energy means the if you multiply simple mass by the velocity square, then it will provide you nuclear energy. Or you can, in other way you can say that the potential energy possessed by the mass that transfers some of its energy to the do the work to bind the nucleons together. So obviously if you have to bind the nucleus, obviously and the nucleus has uh, potential energy due to its mass, due to its rest mass, then some of the rest mass energy that is used to bind them, and due to that they are strongly bonded to each other within the nucleus, and if we have to just remove them, then we have to add that amount of energy. So if you can see here, what is the mass defect? So mass of the nucleus that we have defined already, that is equal to this term. Means if mass of one proton is mp and there are z number of protons in the atom, and mass of one neutron is mn and there are a minus z number of neutrons in the atom, then the sum of these two represents the mass of the nucleus. But still we have seen that is some of the mass that is disappeared from here, and if as a whole that mass just minus this mass here, then we will obtain mass of the nucleus. So mass of the nucleus is not only equal to this term, actually some of the masses that the nucleons are used to bind them together, and due to that this mass is disappeared from this whole term, and this is known as mass defect. Means when nucleons are free, then that time their masses will be equal to this. But if we are just putting them together, we are just impose them to bind together, then in the binding process they are used some of energy, rest mass energy, and due to that rest mass energy, its mass, some factors its mass is defected, and that is known as mass defect. So I think the case of mass defect, there is no confusion in that. You can just obtain that with the help of difference between these two terms. So and if you multiply this mass defect by this entity, then it will give us binding energy. This energy is used, this rest mass energy delta m square, this is used to bind the nucleons together. So that's why means the energy that is needed to bind two nucleons, that is known as its binding energy. And if now you have to remove that nucleon, then you have to add this amount of energy to the system. So I think the concept of binding energy, that is clear to you. And the next concept that is here we have to study, that is the concept of binding energy per nucleon. As in the system we have number of nucleons, number of protons, number of neutrons, and if you can see the pairs, that there are number of nucleons in the system. So in the case we have just calculated binding energy for whole of the nucleus, and if you can see for one nucleon what is binding energy, then that is obviously known as binding energy per nucleon. So if we will define simple binding energy by number of nucleons, then this is known as binding energy per nucleon. Actually binding energy per nucleon, that is just like the average value of the binding energy for the particular for each pair of nucleon, and with the help of this average value we can see that what is the change or what is the variation of binding energy with mass number. So if you will see the curve for binding energy per nucleon and mass number, then according to that curve we can define what is the stability of the atom or nuclei, means the which nuclei is more stable and which nuclei is less stable. So binding energy, obviously stability you can define it with the help of binding energy also. Greater will be the binding energy, obviously greater will be the energy that you will need to break that nucleon or to remove that nucleon. So if a greater amount of energy we have to add to remove an nucleon from the nucleus, then obviously that particular nuclei will be more stable in comparison to any other stable. So greater will be the binding energy, or greater will be the binding energy per nucleon, greater will be its stability. So with the help of it, if you will just draw a binding energy per nucleon curve with mass number, then this curve is obtained something like this way. So in this curve, this point is point for iron, and this is just for the other molecules. So sorry, for other nuclei. So in the case here, this peak represents the high binding energy, and the highest binding energy that we have obtained with the help of binding energy per nucleon curve, that is for the iron. So for Fe, it has been seen that the nuclei of iron, that is the most stable nuclei that is present at our verse. So this is the most stable, and other stability you can also define it with the help of actually this nucleon curve. One more thing is clear: for higher nuclei, we are seeing that the curve is stable, means there is no a lot of variation. For the heavier nuclei, means the heavier nuclei that are unstable, and if this curve is stable, it means that they are showing instability, and for to get the stability, they do so many processes like radioactivity. They show radioactivity. Sometimes they are splitting them into the two or more parts, like nuclear fusion process that is possessed by the smaller nuclei. So these are the process through which they are attaining the nuclear stability. And first of, with the help of this curve, we can easily explain what is the stability of different nuclei, and if different nuclei that are possessing different types of processes for the stability, then what is its reason, we can understand this with this curve. So I think the concept of binding energy and what is binding energy per nucleon curve with mass number, that is to you. So the next topic that we will discuss here, that is the concept of nuclear forces. So before discussing the nuclear forces, as we know that fundamental forces are of four types. So we have in our universe, in our nature, we have four types of fundamental forces. All other forces that you know that are lying within these range of these forces only. So the main four fundamental forces, that is, first is strong nuclear force or strong force. The other name is, second is electromagnetic force. Third is weak forces, and fourth is gravitational force. So here four types of forces basically we have. First force, the strong nuclear force, that is obtained in the nucleus only, and it is the strongest among all these force. And second types of force, that is electromagnetic force. So electromagnetic forces are obtained whenever we have some charged particles. So within, for any charged particle we obtain electromagnetic forces. Third factor, that we have weak forces. So for short durations, somewhere for conversion and for stability, we need such types, some of the forces that are acting. So that are short duration forces, and their strength is very weak. So such types of forces are weak forces, such that we have studied van der Waals forces. So that are the degree of, or the weak forces. And fourth force, that is gravitational force. So it is its strength is least among the all force, and its range in infinite, and obviously its strength is very weak. So the highest strength that is the force has, that is strong nuclear force. So here we will see why these nuclear forces are very strong, or strongest force in the nature, and which types of phenomena, which types of processes they are showing here. So first of all, nuclear forces, what is that? as obviously in our nucleus we have nucleons, and that nucleons are bind together. Obviously they will be bind together by some forces. So here some of neutral particles are here, charged particles are here. Then obviously in case of charged particles you can define that these charged particles are bind by electromagnetic attraction or repulsion forces. But here if you can see the case of protons, then obviously protons are repulsive in nature. For proton they are repulsive. So if there will be repulsion, then how can they will bind within the nucleus? So for the binding, that force that is responsible, that is the strong force. So strong forces that bind proton to proton, that binds neutron to neutron, and also neutron to proton. So all these types of forces that is existing in the nucleus, and in the way all the nucleons are bind together, and obviously they are bound to move only within the nuclear dimension. So the concept of nuclear force, I think that is clear. The questions can be asked which types of phenomena that nuclear forces are possessing. So the nuclear forces has the greatest phenomena, that is the exchange force phenomena. So they are exchange force, they are showing saturation property. So you have to understand the properties of nuclear forces, that is very important. So first thing, that is the exchange property. So nuclear forces means they are showing exchange property, means particles are to exchange within each other, and to maintain their attraction, to maintain their binding force. The reason is that suppose that there are two protons, then obviously that two protons are repulsive in nature, and if they are showing repulsion, then definitely means suppose that if we have to bind that protons, then obviously to bind them we have to add some energy from the outside to overcome the repulsion of them, because they are already repulsive and we are just want to bind them, we want the attractive force, then we have to do some work, or we have to add some energy to overcome that repulsive force. So for that way, obviously some of the energy of the nucleus that will be used to overcome that, and continuously this process, it will continue, then definitely a time will come when all the energy of nucleus that will be used, and the existence of nucleus that will be ended here. So as here we are here, and other all bodies are here, it means that nuclei cannot to destroy. So the region is given by Yukawa, and he just told us that nuclear forces and particles that are showing exchange property. Exchange property means frequently the neutron is converted into proton, and protons are converted into neutrons, and also neutrons are converted into neutrons, protons are converted into protons, and with that way they are using some of the particles, and that particle is known as pi mesons. So with the help of pi mesons, there are three number of particles in case of pi mesons: pi plus, pi minus, and pi 0. So with the help of these three pi mesons particles, nucleons are changing, or they are interchanging into each other frequently, and before they are just showing any repulsive property, proton it changes into neutron or another proton. So that's why in this way they are just maintain their energy, and know of the energy that is using to overcome its repulsive forces, as there is not any repulsion that is produced. And this process is very frequent, means suppose that if one proton that has to convert into neutron, then for this conversion two things that are possible. First of all, if this one proton that is converted into neutron, then there is the emission of a pi plus particle. So with the help of the emission or absorption, with both phenomena they can use for the conversion to each other. So here we are just first of all, let's see the emission phenomena in the case of exchange. So here protons are converted into neutron by the emission of pi plus particles. and a neutron that is converted into neutron, the emission of neutral pi meson particle, and other factors like suppose that neutrons are converted into protons, that is with the help of this particle. So this is the way in which they are emitting the pi mesons particles, and these pi meson particles that are emitting here, and that can be absorbed also, and they are using absorption process for their conversion. So let's see their absorption process. The proton that absorbs a pi minus particle for the conversion into neutron, and a similar way this neutron that is with this particle for the conversion into neutron, and neutron that is using pi plus particle for the conversion into proton. So in this way we are seeing that these pi meson particles that are helping the nucleus to maintain its stability, and due to this factor, as the nuclear energy that is not using to overcome these repulsive forces, as there is very frequent change of the nucleons into each other, then obviously there will be no repulsive forces and no of the energy that will be lost during this process. So for the stability it is very necessary, it is, you can say that it's compulsory to have the exchange phenomena for the nucleons, and as these are the base for the atoms, so greater stability that will nuclei will have, then greater stability for the atom that will be here. So first phenomena, that is the exchange phenomena, and with the help of this phenomena nuclear forces can be defined and easily. Here only one way that we are using the nuclear energy, that is the concept of mass effect, and in the mass effect to bind two nucleons only some of the energy that is used there, and obviously if nucleons are binded together, then it will increase its stability, will not decrease, means energy is using there to increase the stability of the nuclei. So you can also define the stability here in this term, and other properties, just study that which types of property nuclear forces that are showing a number of properties that is showed by the nuclei, its strength, its properties, its different types of phenomena that is possessing. So Yukawa theory that can be also asked in examination, so I think there is confusion while we are discussing nuclear forces and Yukawa theory. The next concept that we have to study, that is the concept of nuclear fusion and nuclear fission, or in other way you can say that nuclear reactions. So what is nuclear reaction? First of all, suppose that we have any unstable particle, so that unstable particle or that unstable nuclei will always have a tendency to convert it into a stable nuclei. Every system that wants to be in a stable state, or if with any way, or if naturally they are unstable, then they are showing so many properties, and with that phenomena they are trying to bring them into the stable condition. Like some of the heavier nuclei or lighter nuclei, they are showing radioactive property, and with the help of the emission of alpha, beta, gamma particles, they are just gaining their stability. Other things in the nuclear reaction, that is they are splitting their nuclei into two or more parts, and with the help of that they are attaining the stability. The third factor that through which they can get the stability, that is to add two or more nuclei, they can do that. The process, with the help of that, there we have three types of processes, that is first was radioactivity. Here we don't have to study that. The second factor, that is the nuclear fusion. In the case of nuclear fusion, two or more nuclei that are joined together to form a heavier nuclei, and that heavier nuclei will be more stable than its individual nuclei through which it is constituted. And in this process, a large amount of energy that is released as to bind to nuclei, or to split two nuclei, obviously we are just taking their binding energy, then of that binding energy that will evolve or emit whenever a nuclear reaction takes place. So obviously in case of nuclear reactions, either it is nuclear fusion or nuclear fission, in both of the cases we get a huge amount of energy of the order of mega electron volts we are obtaining here. And that energy, even we are using nuclear fission process in the nuclear reactors to produce power here. And also there are some harmness, as you know that we have atom bomb and other things that are dependent on that factor. So nuclear fission and fusion, two processes we have to study. So first of all, in general, what is nuclear reaction? So in case of nuclear reaction, suppose that in fission process we are talking. So in case of fission process, a nuclei, heavier nuclei, that is split into two or more nuclei with the emission of some particles and a huge amount of energy, that is known as nuclear fusion. So to split a heavier nuclei into lighter nuclei, we use a high energetic particle to bombard on it. So for that there are so many conditions actually which particle we can use for the bombardment, that is dependent on the scattering cross section and other factors. With the help of that we just use different types of particle for the bombardment on different types of nuclei. So like if we take the example of uranium, so in case of uranium, neutron is the suitable particle that is used for the bombardment, for the scattering cross section and other factors we have discovered that. So if a high energetic, or you can say that accelerating electrons we are using, then and we are now allowed to bombard that electrons, the uranium, then the uranium nuclei that breaks up into two other nuclei, barium and krypton, and with the emission of three other neutrons and a huge amount of energy of the order of mega electron volt. So in this process, while bombarding one neutron, we are getting 3 neutron in the output, and that 3 neutrons can again used for the fission of uranium at nuclei. So in this way, if you will not stop the production of neutron, then that neutron will further cause the fission process in case of uranium, and in that way we will get a huge amount of energy and a chain reaction that will be started. So in the case of chain reaction, obviously if suppose that here the fission of uranium that is taking place, then that will spread into over a huge area, and that will create a large loss on that section. So in this way, actually nuclear fissions that we are using, there are two processes in that, we will discuss that. Here uncontrollable fission, and second is controllable fission. So in case of uncontrollable fission, we are not controlling, or we are unable to control the production of neutrons there, and with that a chain reaction that will be started, and it will within some time, within some seconds, it will spread over a huge area, and that will create a huge loss. And that is the theory of atom bomb. Second theory, that is controllable reaction, in which we control the production of neutron, means 3 neutrons are produced and we are just stopped 2 of the neutrons, and we are using only 1 neutron further, means we are just used a process to absorb the neutron or to retard their velocity. Many process we can use here. So with the help of that, if you will only allow 1 neutron at a time, then that process will be controllable, and a fixed amount of energy that will be evolved, and that fixed amount of energy we can use in our power sources for the production of electricity and other things. So that actually always sign depends on the factor that in which way we are using it. So if you will use it in uncontrollable way, then it will create a huge loss to us. But if you will use in the controlled way, then it will obviously is very beneficial for us. Even it can solve our electricity crisis very easily. So guys, I think the concept of nuclear fission and fusion, first of all, that is clear. Nuclear reactions is clear. Then in next class we will discuss these nuclear reactions in details, and that topics are also very important. And nuclear reactors, that will be we will always also discuss there. So for today, let's end the class here.